Okay, he is here.
Is he in? I can't see him.
Yes, he is.
Okay. Okay, well, it sounds like we have all of the members of, there he is, members of the City Council on. So let's go ahead and get started. We will call to order the Johnston City Council meeting number 20-15. Cindy, roll call, please.
Councilmember Cope,
Here.
Evans,
Here.
Martin,
Here.
Reddy,
Here.
Soroka.
Here.
And before I welcome those that are with us this evening, I need to read the COVID-19 statement. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic and in accordance with Governor Reynolds' March 19, 2020 proclamation suspending the regulatory provisions of Iowa Code Section 21.8 or any other statute imposing a requirement to hold a public meeting or hearing, the City of Johnston will conduct meetings electronically with the public allowed to attend per instructions denoted on the meeting's particular agenda. Meeting minutes will continue to be posted per the city's normal course of business. I will welcome everyone that is with us this evening. I know that Virginia is with us. Cindy, do we have other guests this evening?
We have 6 other guests besides Ginger.
Okay. Do we know if any of them want to speak?
Other than Ginger, I do not know of anyone else that would like to speak.
Okay. Well, I would just encourage folks that would want to speak at any point along the way to raise your hand and let us know why you're raising your hand, and if it is to speak on a particular agenda item, and in fact, if you could alert us to that before we get to that agenda item, that would be helpful as well. We will unmute you and you can share your comments with the City Council. Next item on the agenda is the agenda approval. Cindy or Teresa, Jim's not with us this evening, correct?
It does not appear so, no.
Okay. Do we have any changes to the agenda?
No.
Okay. Council members, any changes to the agenda?
No.
Hearing none, I'll take a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved, Cope.
I second Suresh.
We have a motion and a second. Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Evans,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Reddy,
Yes.
Soroka,
Yes.
Cope.
Yes.
Motion passed. Moving on to public communications. We do not have any scheduled public communications this evening. Is there anyone who is with us this evening that would like to make a comment under public communications? If you would, please raise your hand.
I see none. It also appears that Jim Sanders has joined us via telephone.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, hearing no interest in providing any public communications this evening, we'll go on to the next agenda item, and that is public hearings. And we have no scheduled public hearings this evening. So we'll move on to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved, Cope.
Second, Martin.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Martin,
Yes.
Reddy,
Yes.
Soroka,
Yes.
Cope,
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
Motion passed. Moving on to the non-consent agenda, item 8A, consider approval of the second reading of ordinance number 1030, a text amendment to chapter 174, floodplain management, an official zoning map amendment to establish new floodway fringe and general floodplain overlay districts, PZ case 20-08. Would this be Dave Wilding or Clayton?
This is Clayton Ender. There
Okay.
are no new updates, nor have any public comments been received since last meeting.
Okay, this is the second reading. Does the council have any questions for Clayton? If not, do we have a motion to approve ordinance, second reading of ordinance number 1030?
Move approval, Cope.
I second Suresh.
We have a motion and a second. Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Ready,
Yep.
Soroka,
Yes.
Pope,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Ready. Did I start?
Yes.
with
You did that twice, so hey.
you? Sorry. I was trying to see who was making all the noise. I was trying to mute them.
Motion passed. My guess is Councilman Cope is at a ball game.
Yes, I am. I'm trying to mute.
That's all right. That's all right. You can run, but you can't hide. We know what you're doing. Item 8B, consider resolution number 20-187, establishing the public hunting areas for the 2020-2021 Urban Bow Hunt Program. And who would this be?
This would be Jim.
Okay.
And yes, this is the 23rd year that we've been participated in the hunt, and a number of other metro communities as well as Polk County and the state of Iowa also participate in the hunt. But basically what it does, it's a way to control the deer population. The goal is to try to get the deer numbers down to 30 deer per square mile. And you can see in some areas in Johnston, we've got quite a bit higher number of deer if you look at the staff reports. So we've been doing this for a number of years, and the important thing is to really keep pressure on the hunt to make sure that that we keep our deer population at a sustainable level. And most of the reason we do this is to make sure that we can reduce the number of deer vehicle accidents and reduce the property damage caused by deer, yet still have deer within our community at appropriate levels. So the action tonight is approving the public areas that we allow to hunt. We actually have 5 public areas. One is near Saylorville Lake, and that the permits are actually given out by the Army Corps of Engineers for that area. There's also some area by the Des Moines River, and Polk County Conservation gives those permits out. And then we have 3 areas with that in our parks that we give permits out to hunters. We usually have about 15 to 18 hunters a year, and usually around 15 to 20 deer that are taken each season. But now this is for the public part of the hunt. We will have other requests later on, probably beginning in September, from private property owners to have their properties hunted, but each of those actions will come back to the city council. This is just the the public areas that we allow for hunting for the 2020 hunting season. And with that, I'll answer any questions the council may have.
Jim, did we receive any public comment on this?
We have not.
Okay. Council, other questions?
Usually,
Go ahead.
yeah,
Jim.
usually the public comment, we may get some when we get to some of the private property owners, from their neighbors, but really with the public hunts, we haven't really had any concerns or issues that have been expressed by our citizens.
Council members, any questions for Jim?
This is Suresh. I have a quick question, Jim. How does this work in a private property? Do they have a license, or they can just trying to understand that?
Yeah, well, the way that the hunt works, now again, these are public properties. A private property owner, the owner would have to approach the city and make a request. We actually have a form that they fill out to say, I want my property hunted, and I do have trees there to where the hunters can put their stands in the trees, and we take a look at setbacks to make sure that there's no buildings within so many feet of the private properties. And so the property owners would bring those requests to the city. Now, for a hunter to hunt, they do have to have a permit from the city, and what they have to prove is they have to have a license from the Iowa Department of Natural Resources. They have to have evidence that they've passed a bow hunter safety course, and they also have to have evidence that they have passed a proficiency test, which says that they are proficient with the bows that they hunt with. And so they have those 3 requirements that they have, plus they have to have property owner approval. So for the city properties, the city gives the approval. For private properties, the private property owners give approval for those.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Thank you. It was just out of curiosity I asked those.
Sure, sure.
Other questions for Jim? If not, do we have a motion to approve resolution number 20-187?
So moved, Cope. Second, Cope.
So who was the first?
Jim,
Jim, okay. We have a motion and a second. Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Soroka,
yes.
Cope,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Martin,
yes,
Ready.
Yep.
Motion passed. Item 8C, consider resolution number 20-189, a resolution approving the site plan for 5820 and 5840 Northwest Beaver Drive. The site is located at the southwest corner of Northwest 59th Avenue and Northwest Beaver Drive. PZ case 20-12.
This is Clayton Ender again.
Okay.
Cindy, I don't know if we can open up this site plan by chance.
Maybe if my mouse will work, I can. There we go.
And it's like that sheet should be good there. Thank you. This is a proposal to construct 2 11,000 square foot flex light industrial buildings. The assumption is that they'd be about 2/3 office space, 1/3 warehousing space. The located on the corner of Northwest Beaver Drive and Northwest 59th Avenue. If you're not familiar with the area, that's over by the Temple Beaver Drive. The property is zoned M1 light industrial. So the types of uses that the applicant is seeking to market would be permitted, where is electricians, things of those nature. There is outdoor storage included on that southern portion of that southwest portion of the property to kind of maybe help orient you. The right side of the page is to the north, and then you got Beaver Drive on the bottom of the page there. The property does have access off of both Northwest Beaver Drive and Northwest 59th Avenue. The applicant would need to provide some cross egress easements to make sure that both properties are able to utilize the site. There would be sidewalk along both Northwest Beaver Drive and Northwest 59th Avenue, including pedestrian connections from the sidewalk to the front of each building through the through the parking lot along those connections are on Northwest Beaver Drive. Is a buffer required property. Immediately to the west is zoned R4 high density residential. It's currently vacant, not yet developed. This property would be required to do half that buffer, which is 30 feet. They have identified those buffer materials on their property on a later sheet of this site plan. In regards to architecture, don't know if Cindy, if you could hop over to, that will work there. In the M1 district, we do require that facades that are within 300 feet of a public road to be at least 25% brick, architectural concrete panel, textured block, architectural metal. What they are proposing is the utilization of brick to meet that requirement. Other areas of the building would either be glazing or kind of your sheet metal look. The loading bay doors would be on the west, kind of facing away from Beaver Drive, and not in parallel with Northwest 59th Avenue. All in all, the property meets the zoning code. Planning and Zoning Commission did review this and has recommended approval subject to conditions, which have also been included in your proposed resolution. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have anything, go into further detail as needed. I do see the applicant and their representative or attendees as well, should there be questions or if they wish to add anything further. That's my comments.
Does the council have any questions for Clayton or for the applicant?
I have some questions for Clayton. Clayton, can you talk to me on about the accessible routes from the sidewalks to the buildings? It's hard for me to make out on the plans whether or not there would be curb cuts after you cross into the parking lot and head toward the building.
There should be. I'd have to zoom in. I got the site plan open on my computer. I'm trying to look here really quick.
And I appreciate that. And it was hard for me to tell also because I could see ramps on the main sidewalk along Beaver, but I couldn't see ramps indicated. In fact, there's a note on this plan that says no curb. So maybe they are proposing curb cuts.
And this may be a question that the applicant's engineer could answer pretty quick. He is on the call, Mark McMurphy. I don't know if we can allow him to speak, Cindy.
He should be able to speak now.
Mark, if you're able to unmute.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear
Yes,
you.
we can.
Yeah, absolutely. There'll be no curbs at those locations where the accessible routes come onto the pavement and then across the pavement and then curb ramps up onto the sidewalks. So everything is designed per ADA standards.
Okay. Another question I have for, I don't know who, there is an existing monument sign on the corner of Northwest Beaver and 60th, whatever that street is. Will there be an additional signage monument sign proposed for this site? Or is this the only one that we'll have?
Signage is by a separate permit. Corner lots are permitted 2 monument signs, so 1 per street frontage. And then that southern building is on its lot of its own, so it could also have a monument sign. So at most, you could see 2 additional monument signs. At this time, I don't believe any additional monument signs have been proposed, but those typically would come as a separate permit to the building department.
Okay. On the southern property line, the driveway that goes around the building gets quite close to the property line. What is the setback along there for driveways?
Our minimum setback for driveways is 1 foot.
Wow. Okay. All right. I would like to ask now about the landscape plan. It looks to me like in the landscape plan, they have provided the amount of trees requested. My only comment is, Clayton, is that again, we tend to have trees specified in here where we call out shade trees as being required, and the trees being proposed are not what I would consider shade trees. They're crab apples and Japanese tree lilacs, and I have no objection to the species of the tree. And my objection is they are never going to get very big. And so I'm wondering if the owner or the designer would perhaps consider scattering in some larger shade trees. I can understand why you want the smaller trees along the frontage, but perhaps on the side and the rear, you might consider substituting in a tree that would get to be 30 to 40 foot tall and provide more shade for the site.
I would defer to Mark or the applicant on their willingness to make that modification.
This is Mark. So along the buffer, along the westerly side, I think is what we're talking about. So my understanding of the buffer there was that it was to be a berm about 3 feet high, and then some shrubs to take out the sort of block and buffer the view lower, like from foot level to waist or shoulder level, and then understory trees for sort of that mid height, and then overstory trees, so that it goes sort of from the ground on up and covers and fills that in and breaks up the view. But that's my understanding of it. Maybe the planners have a different view of that. Otherwise, as far as substituting species, that'd be up to the owner, up to Mr. Monroe. So I'll let him answer that, or maybe Clayton, you have a different understanding than what I do.
This is Clayton. Mark, you're correct in that we call for a mixture of shrubs, berm, understory trees, overstory trees, and evergreen trees. Really with that intent to get that screening to the adjoining property at all height levels, not just at that high level. Along that western property line particularly, we're going to have outdoor storage there at ground level, and it's zoned for residential to the west there. So we want to make sure that we're providing adequate screening of some of those areas that can conflict with residential uses, where someone may not want to look out their first floor window and see something being stored there, which they are permitted to do per zoning code.
And I guess when I look at the plant list provided on the plans, and your explanation of the what the buffer should consist of is correct, but when I look at the list of plant material on the plans, I don't see any shade trees beyond what I consider an understory tree. So that's where I am wondering what's going on.
And I don't that list memorized.
This is Pat Monroe, the developer. I didn't really take a good look at the actual species of trees, but if it's a non-cost issue and we can substitute a different tree for what is spec'd on the plan, that's not an issue. Really, we don't have any big objections to changing the species as long as it's not a cost hindrance.
Okay, I appreciate your consideration there. And I'm not asking for bigger plant material or plant material that is rare or hard to find. I'm just saying that the ultimate size should fit more into a shade tree category than an understory category. And I appreciate you being open to the suggestion. And native, if it can be native, that would be awesome also.
That's preferred from our standpoint as well.
Great. I don't think that we need to make this a motion for approval. I would just say that I would, that the owner has said that he's willing to make those changes, and I'm happy with that. I don't have any more questions. Thank you.
Other questions for Clayton or for the applicant? If not, do we have a motion to approve resolution number 20-189?
Move approval, Cope.
I second Suresh.
Okay.
We have a motion and a second. Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Soroka,
Yes.
Hope,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Ready.
Yep.
Motion passed. Moving on to item 8D, consider change order number 10 with Hanson JTC LLC for the Johnston Town Center project. Is this you, Adam?
This is Adam. I'll be covering this for Dave this evening. This is change order number 10. It's for the demolition of the 3 houses that the city has acquired off of Northwest 63rd Place. The contract will be going through Hanson on the demolition for the total amount of $57,914. We did close on the last property today and are working through the asbestos remediation process on the 2 houses in which asbestos was identified. So hope to have these coming down here sometime next month.
Questions for Adam?
So Adam, that cost is for the demolition of the 3 houses because the cost is like $55,000 or something like that.
Should be 57,914, I believe. Let me.
Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah.
I don't have. I mean, I knew it was somewhere in the 50s, but so I just did. But that's for demolishing 3 houses, not just 1 house, right?
Correct.
Okay, great, thanks.
Other questions for Adam? Do we have a motion to approve change order number 10?
Move
Move
approval.
approval. Second, Cope.
We have a motion and a second. Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Cope,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Ready,
Yep.
Soroka.
Yes.
Motion passed. Item 8E, consider removing from the table and continuing consideration of resolution number 20-177, a resolution approving an agreement to complete improvements regarding unauthorized removal of trees on Lot 1, El Morado Estates Plat 4, Outlot W, El Morado Estates Plat 4, and parcel 2017-56 of Lot 10, El Morado Estates Plat 2. We would need to consider a motion to remove this item from the table.
Correct.
I so moved to remove from the table resolution 20-177.
Do we have a second?
I second, Suresh.
We have a motion and a second. Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Evans,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Ready,
Yep.
Soroka,
Yes.
Cope.
Yes.
Motion passed. Clayton, I'm assuming this one's yours again?
Yes, it is. Cindy, yep, you're opening up the correct document. So since last meeting, staff, Councilmember Cope, and Councilmember Martin met with the applicant's representative regarding this matter to look at some of those concerns and make sure tree placement is appropriate. Modifications that have been made include the relocation of 2 deciduous trees to the north shore of the pond, as well as 3 evergreen trees. Applicant has revised the plan to move those trees. They have also kind of sketched in a assumed home location on future Lot 1 there to try and give some indication of how that may orient with those trees. This does still retain a bit of a gap between the 2 sections of trees there on Lot 1, but seeing how they relate in terms of a future home. Staff is kind of favorable to this because it does provide some screening to the driveway and the garage, which can have some negative aspects when you're looking across, and things that get stored around garages, the coming and going of vehicles. So it does provide some screening in that area, and it does also work to try to replace that grove that has been removed, that was illegally removed. Staff did provide notice to the 2 property owners opposite the pond that had been showing interest in this matter. So those 2 were given further notification. With that, I'd be happy to answer questions. I do see the applicant's representative on the phone as well. And looks like maybe there's at least might have interest in this matter and the attendees as well.
Sorry, I was knocked off for about 30 seconds. Where are we at?
Do you need me to back up at all?
What I heard you say, Clayton, the last thing that I heard you say is that the other property owners were notified, and then I lost you.
All I said is I do see the applicant's representative in the attendees list, and Jerry and Monique, who were property owners to the south, have shown interest as well. So with that, I'd be happy to go into further detail, answer questions. Staff is recommending approval of the agreement to complete improvements at this time.
Councilmember Martin or Councilmember Cope, did you want to comment on this? First of all, thanks so much for getting together with the property owners and working towards a resolution here. I think that what you've proposed here is a good resolution of the situation. But did you want to share any comments?
Yes, I will make a small comment. This was a difficult situation. I do believe that we should be doing better at preserving and protecting trees all across Johnston. In this case, the trees were removed by mistake, and the developer is replanting. It comes down to the issue that he's replanting across the site in places where it's thought that these trees would do well and be there for a long time in the future. One of the comments that we would get from the homeowners that were impacted by this because of their view, you know, the consideration, why aren't we putting more those trees back where the trees were removed? You have to realize this is a building site. When the homeowner, I know that there was a maintenance agreement worked out, but still, once that becomes a building site, at some point the homeowner will get to do whatever he wants. And if those trees are interfering with a view that he wants, he will take them out. So the compromise here is that the developer is paying for new trees to be installed and maintained, and they're going to be placed all over the site in areas where they could be there for future, for the future enjoyment of everybody that lives in that area. Not maybe the thing that's going to make the neighbors real happy right now, but I believe it's a good compromise.
Yeah, I would just add, I would agree with Councilwoman Martin's characterization that this is a good compromise. I really appreciate the work done by the developer to bring forward, in response to what we discussed at our meeting, an outcome that I think that it is in the long term best for the property, in the sense that we will plant trees that will likely stay there for a long time, and also appreciate the input of the neighbors and that their willingness to work through this issue as well. So agree that this is a good compromise and would urge the council to support it.
Questions or comments from other council members? Seeing none. Cindy, do we have anyone that has raised their hand that has indicated that they would like to speak to this issue? Or this item?
Not specifically, no.
Okay.
I know there are some in attendance who were interested in this, but no one
Right,
is.
but nobody's indicated that they want to speak.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, well, hearing no further questions or comments, do we have a motion to approve resolution number 20-177?
Move approval, Cope.
Second, Martin.
We have a motion and a second. Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Cope,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Reddy,
Yep.
Soroka.
Yes.
Motion passed. Again, thanks Councilwoman Martin and Councilman Cope for your extra efforts on this. Appreciate your work. Moving on to item 8F, Consideration of claims in the amount of $997,400.88. Do we have a motion?
Move approval, Evans.
I second Suresh.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Evans,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Ready,
Yep.
Soroka,
Yes.
Coe.
Yes.
Motion passed. Moving on to item 9, city administrator staff comments. We have one item, which is the Johnston Centertown update. Adam?
Thanks, Mayor. A few quick comments and updates on the town center. Cindy has pulled up a proposed tentative design, or yep, there we go. For, if you scroll down to the second page, you'll see the location on the south end of the opening in between the restrooms and the concession stand window. This is sort of a barrier to the property to the south there, the Keltner property. Kind of delineate that and keep people from walking in between that alleyway and do so in what we think is a pretty neat way. So that would be cut out metal. We are working through a couple of revisions. If we scroll back up to the top page there, pulling out the clinking of the beer cans and the wine glasses, as well as reworking a couple other graphics, such as the shopping bag in the top left of the right graphic. But this is budgeted for as part of the existing structure, so there's no additional cost for this, but we think it'd make a nice fence. So just wanted to run this by council and see if there's any comments or concerns with that.
I think one other thing that we talked about, Adam, was adding a kite.
Oh yes, a kite is being added as well.
Thank you.
The second item
Hey,
is the feature wall.
Adam, just real quick on this, on the feature wall. So, kind of, I see the brick wall kind of in the upper middle, and then on the upper right, kind of a tall story building, and it looks like sort of something that looks almost like a tent or a triangle. What are we trying to kind of, what are we mimicking from Johnston with each of the three of those? All three of those?
I think that overall picture is just supposed to represent some sort of a commercial structure. Looking at that arch canopy there, and then the brick facade. I think they're playing off of the Merle Hay sort of brick requirements. Did you have a couple other comments in addition to those you said?
No, to me, they didn't really, they don't, to me, strike me as something that is, really looks anything like Johnston. I mean, we don't have a lot of, that building there is like a 8-story tall building. That's not really, I don't know. To me, it doesn't have it's pretty generic, I guess. And so just kind of, that's just the feedback I would give.
We can take a look and see if there's anything more relevant to the Merle Hay Road corridor that's going to speak out Johnston a little bit more than that design. Certainly can. Any other comments? The second item here is one of the feature panels that would be in the lobby of City Hall. Across from this one will be some of the history information, and that one's still being worked on. But this is what we believe is a final draft of a map of Johnston, and this would be inked on top of one of those wooden sheets just on the north side of the entrance into the council chambers in that corridor. So we have outlined in here the city boundaries, as well as all the existing roads and the existing trails in Johnston, and then a denotation of the town center and a couple of main thoroughfares. We know that this will date eventually, and there may be the option to add in some additional streets or replace this at some time. But it's meant to be a kind of a nice reference point for folks as they have conversations in the lobby and to lay out what the city's current boundaries are. If there's no comments on that one, I'll go to the signage conversation. So on the first page here, we've got noted the different types of monument signs and the wayfinding signs that will eventually be proposed within the town center. And you'll see there, the ones with the asterisks are the phase 1. So those are what would be going in on day 1 as part of the first sort of decision package here that you should be seeing within the next month or so. The idea is that as the commercial structures build out, some of these additional signs might be put into place, and there might be some reorientation of a few of the signs that might need some additional building signage for the businesses that would be relocated and used as wayfinding signs, and a larger monument sign be put in their place, kind of along those main drive aisles into the town center. But we didn't want to oversign this on day one, given that the primary amenities are the outdoor amenities in the city hall. So if you scroll down to page 2, that's the first family of signs that we discussed at the committee level. And then if you scroll down to page 3, and then 4, excuse me. This is the second family of signs, and this is the one that appeared to be a committee preference for. There's still gonna be a little additional design work done on these, and there's a few good discussion points just about making sure they're tall enough that we don't have any obstruction of the words through any of the plantings that might be out there, and whether some of the logo use is appropriate. But this is generally what we're looking at. The one on the very bottom there on the left, the long one, if you scroll back up to the first page, that would be directly west of the ice rink where it says WF. So that would be a long sign that you would see as you enter into the town center site off of Merle Hay. And that would give you some directions towards the various commercial buildings that would be in here. And then directly to the west of that, in that sort of median space as you drive into the town center, would be that larger monument sign, the equivalent of what you see on the top left on the page below right now. Potentially with that second family. We're still working through some of the informational signs that are scattered throughout this site and a few of the wayfinding ones, but if you scroll back down to the page 4 there, you get a general sense in the bottom right, that directional signage of what some of those might look like. Go back up one more page. There we go. Item number D there. So this tries to use it mimics the roof line of City Hall to a certain extent to play off of that roof line structure. As well includes some of the design work that'll be scattered throughout the town center and the fonts, and then also reuses some of those materials that you'll see within City Hall as well. So that's where things currently stand on this. I'd certainly welcome any comments or concerns on that current design, but as I said, the design team is going to continue to work on this, and we should have some refined signage to come back for you and approval along with some pricing within the next month or so.
Adam, I had a couple of questions I've got is the Johnston Town Center, the font there is pretty block letterish. Does it mimic the kind of the cursive Johnson that we incorporated into our city logo? So wondering if that's kind of a purposeful decision. Is that something we've landed on while we're moving in that direction?
It certainly could be changed, but it was intentional by Juicebox, who's been kind of the marketing firm that's been working with Hanson on the logos and how they envision some of the building signage and the marketing materials. I forget the name of the font, but it is that same font that would be used in that promotional material. And I think there is sort of an intentional, I think there is an intention here to separate Johnston Town Center from City of Johnston. Through different font use, kind of celebrate this as its own entity that'll have the commercial buildings in here. And even though we will have City Hall and obviously public amenities in here, not directly tie that to the City of Johnston necessarily.
I guess the other question I would have, the logo, I don't really get the logo. It looks kind of like a baseball, softball diamond kind of laid over the top of each other. What are we trying to convey with that?
When we looked at the original branding options, I think they gave us probably 3 pages full of sort of different concepts and ideas. Some of them included just some geometrical patterns. Some had some more of a Celtic sort of designs to it. And it seemed to be the committee preference at the time was to go with something very simple, but did have a bit of elegance. And so this was the one that was selected as part of that process. And so you will see that reflected, I guess, in the Johnston Town Center logo and then in some of the marketing material that's out there. I don't know if it has a specific representation for the City of Johnston other than that's just intended to be sort of the symbol that people will recognize as part of the town center.
I guess I'm not blown away yet.
And one other note on this I should mention then on the top left one, where it says movie in the yard, Friday, July 3rd, that would be the digital sign component. And so that would have the ability to advertise different events that are occurring in the town center. And if you look at kind of the one on the left and versus the one on the right, kind of the committee discussion was to try to keep this as simple and straightforward so that folks knew what they're driving into and weren't focused on trying to read 7 or 8 different businesses, particularly when we might eventually have 15, 20 plus businesses on that main sign as you come in there. So the intention was to go with that top left one to keep it simple. We did have a little discussion on that logo use, and if folks aren't as big of a fan on that or think it won't age well, we can certainly look at different options or just not including it as part of the monument signage. I don't know if anybody else has feelings on that as well, but now would be the time to be working through this and make those changes.
I would agree with Councilman Cope that I'm not blown away by the logo.
And I agree. I think it's a distraction.
Is the preference then to not have anything there? Is that what I'm hearing?
I don't think, I'm not prepared to say definitively no logo there. I think the logo needs improvement. And so it just, to me, I don't know what we're trying to convey, with the signage. What's the objective other than sort of, this is where we are. But to me, the font is boring, that doesn't excite you. And the logo doesn't tell you where, anything about it. And so I guess from my standpoint, I think we should still continue to look at both of those a little bit and try to fine tune them. Taking the logo off to me doesn't necessarily, I'm not prepared to make that final decision at this point, but maybe that is where we end up. But if there's nothing better as an option, but.
And I'm going to add to Tom's thing. If the logo was something that was recognizable, because right now, whenever I look at this drawing, this sign thing, I look at that logo and it's just it doesn't say anything about Johnston. There's nothing familiar about it. So to me, it's just distracting.
And I guess I don't really, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I don't really understand why we're trying to distinguish this from the city. I mean, the city, we've got kind of, I think, a pretty cool logo. And so I'm not sure why, it is, to me, I think we build off of that instead of going in a completely different direction there's zero tie to it. So if you want to be different, that's fine, but I think at least should be tied somewhat together, some connectivity. And this has no, it's it's almost like it's a different town of Johnston than our current town with our current logos and our current marketing materials.
Adam, is the logo, are they trying to make it different because the city doesn't own the buildings and stuff around the town center, and that's what this is identifying?
Yeah, again, I think the logo maybe has a slight play off of the idea of the yard there. It is more of a field, obviously, but kind of has that feeling of the yard. But yes, that was the intention, is that it is the center of Johnston, but it's also the place of business for these future commercial entities that'll exist here. And so it is both public and private. And maybe you're right, we can draw that connection better than just using similar materials and slopes on the sign as City Hall, and instead try to intertwine in something that's more relevant to the city's logo, either through a font or maybe some sort of symbolism that draws the city of Johnston more to people's mind than more of an abstract logo. This will probably take us a little bit to go back through because I think that Juicebox has been utilizing this logo for some time now, but we'll have to kind of regroup, I think, and talk through some additional options and try to bring them back to council to see how those are received.
my only additional comment would be that I don't mind the lettering. I do agree with Councilman Cope, it's pretty plain. But I don't mind the plainness of it. I think it will last longer in terms of not look dated.
And I'm probably not doing it justice either. It's probably best to have Juice Box come in the future and try to paint the picture of what they're trying to accomplish here and hear council's feedback and maybe work on that. So we'll come prepared here at a future work session. I would suspect with how they came up with their underlying theme and the logo and the font. There is about a 10-page document that kind of talks through all of that, but it hasn't been in front of council for several months now. And maybe we can have them get some of that feedback and circle back around.
I think that would be good, Adam.
As far as the actual design and the materials of the signs, is there any opposition to that, or the concerns predominantly with the sort of the use of the logo and the font?
I do like the fact that you're sort of tying it into the design of City Hall and the coloring, matching that up. I like that. I think the colors look sharp. So.
Okay, well that feedback then, if that's kind of the consensus among the council, is useful as we start getting into some of those pricing conversations. And I think more of the text and the words on there is more superficial, so we can work through that even as the materials are sort of being put into place.
Anything else?
That is all I had for you, other than we'll be also back with Ripples here in the near future. We've got some additional design updates on that, but we haven't received any reworkings of the lightings yet. So once we have that finalized pricing for the lights, we'll have that back in front of you as well.
Okay. Any other city administrator or staff comments? Jim, are you still with us? Did you have anything that you wanted to add? Other staff comments? If not, we'll start with the city council comments then. Councilman Evans.
Paula?
Yes.
Paula?
Yes.
This is Jim.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Couldn't get unmuted here. I just had two things I wanted to talk about real quickly.
Sure.
First of all, I wanted to thank Public Works and the Park Department for their job in cleaning up after the storm we had earlier in July. They did a great job in getting out there and getting the storm collected. A lot more material than we originally thought, just with the damage that we've had. We did have a few people that questioned our policy related to storm cleanup, and we are going to bring that up and talk about that with our Public Works council representatives. So that'll be on our next agenda when we want to talk about that, just to make sure we're still accomplishing what we want to within our policy. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about is the Trestle Bridge, just to give the council an update. Polk County did reach out to me last week, and I sat down with them and talked about the bridge replacement. As I think I've mentioned this before, but they have gotten approval from the Corps of Engineers to rebuild the bridge. The problem is they haven't gotten the funding commitment from FEMA. FEMA has provided some funding, but nowhere near what it costs to replace the bridge. And so they're going back and trying to figure out how they can accomplish the getting the bridge replaced and bringing in some other partners to help with the funding. So we are going to also talk about this at our Public Works Committee meeting, just to see, what we as a community or how we feel about participating in the Trestle Bridge. Certainly what the plan is right now with Polk County, that they did get a funding commitment from FEMA, but they're going to appeal that funding commitment. And so that's going to take some time. And so allowing the time to do the appeal would delay the bridge even further as far as getting constructed. So again, they're trying to figure out how we may be able to move forward with bridge construction and then still follow up with the appeal with FEMA to see if there can be additional funding to go towards that project. So my guess is we'll probably be talking about that at our next city council meeting as that becomes more clear and we have an opportunity to talk with our Public Works Committee about that. And that's all I had for this evening.
Jim, you mentioned the storm of 2 or 3 weeks ago. I was out at Camp Dodge yesterday for another send-off, and they had it at the former pool site. And I was surprised to see how much damage the storm had done to the pool pavilion. It had literally taken off the entire overhang on the front of the building. So it's bare on the front of the building and did some considerable damage to the roof. So if you haven't been out there to see that, I was surprised by the amount of damage that it did to that structure.
Oh, I didn't realize they had that much damage out there. I know there was significant damage in other parts of the community, but it hadn't been on the camp for a while.
Yeah, well, it sits really high, of course, and I think that's probably what did it to it. So anyway, anything else, Jim?
That's all I had for this evening.
Okay. Councilman Evans, back to you.
I want to talk about that email or letter that came out today from the resident of Bricktown and the problems with the people breaking into cars and everything. And I guess I'm just wondering, is that really our problem? And because Brickstone is so big, wouldn't they need to provide their own security that then would be backed up by our police? It just bothers me that they think that we aren't reacting the way we should, but yet, I don't know. I guess I just wanted to talk about it.
Is the chief on?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you want to help respond to Councilman Evans's question?
Yes. So I think we got 2 separate emails from members weekend. To be frank, there has been some concerns with car prowls and vandalism, some crime involving juveniles there. We've been working that complex for some time. The construction that's ongoing there at that facility, that's had an added wrinkle that we've had to work through. There's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes that residents don't necessarily see what a police department does. We're going persons that submitted emails to try to get a little further depth of detail. We've also been trying to get the crime-free multi-housing program up and going with the management there. So there's a lot of things that are in the works. Specifically to Councilman Evans' comments about welcome them to initiate something like that, but I don't know that it's a requirement. Obviously, the larger the facility, the greater chance we have of working with the neighbors to report crimes as they occur. So there's some things that have been ongoing. Pulling some quick numbers, it looked like we had done, I think it was 83 extra watches or specific just in this calendar year to date, which is pretty high for what we normally do at some of our other complexes. We're pretty active there. We've had quite a few interactions with folks and gotten some positive feedback too. One of the challenges that we face is you have some that will say we need to enforce the law at all costs when it comes to juvenile offenders. And we have others that say that we shouldn't refer anyone to juvenile court. So we're constantly in that balancing act of trying to find the right strategy and work with our communities that are like this. So it's an ongoing conversation. It's on my radar more now, obviously, given some of the articulated concerns that were brought forward. We're working to try to have some greater discussion with some of the folks that live there. And I think we'll get to a point of common understanding. I'm not certain that they're going to agree with some of our community policing approach, but until we have those conversations, it's a little premature to guess how that'll turn out.
Councilman Evans, did you have any further questions for the chief?
No, that letter just kind of bothered me because we've got, but I know that our police department has plenty to do, and I don't know. I got nothing else.
Sorry about my clock here. Well, Chief, I just want to thank you for your quick follow-up and response and attention to the issues. Obviously, no matter where you live in our community, we should expect that it's safe and our property and our persons are protected. So we'll work through it.
Yep, absolutely. This isn't uncommon when we have a new housing complex that you have people moving to Johnston that aren't familiar with some of the makeup. We'll get there. It's just a matter of time and helping them understand how they can support us. And it seems like they want to be active in that. So I think it's just an exchange of ideas, and hopefully we can get them with working with us in our crime-free multi-housing program. And really that comes down to being good stewards for the residents and working with us to address issues early on.
Sure. Okay.
Thank you.
Councilman Reddy.
No, I don't have anything for today, but thank you.
Councilwoman Martin.
I just want to second all the great work that the Public Works Department did cleaning up, especially around my neighborhood. And my husband doesn't make a whole lot of comments to me about city stuff because, you know, it's better that way. But he did make a comment on how excellent the crew that cleaned up our cul-de-sac were. He said that he used to work for the city of Des Moines and now he's with Drake. And he said, you know, it wasn't the operator just waiting for a new truck to come to load up, that it was the whole crew. If there wasn't a truck there to be filled, they got up and they got out and they cleaned up and picked up. So they went above and beyond in doing a really great job on our cul-de-sac, getting it all cleaned up, and that everybody worked, nobody sat.
You know, it almost feels like our storm cleanup teams are trying to outdo our snowplow teams. Little rivalry going on there.
Well, they're the same people.
That's what I thought you were going to say. Highly committed, dedicated city employees.
Yeah, we have a great staff down here at Public Works. I appreciate the comments, and I will make sure to pass those along to our staff. They like hearing that positive feedback, so we'll make sure that we pass that along. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Councilman Coe?
I just like to say, tonight, obviously we're focused on our agenda tonight, but certainly thinking as well about our brothers and sisters over at the school board, knowing that they've got a very challenging meeting tonight, and I know they're gonna do the right thing as far as whatever decisions they need to make. It's a great group of people, and just kind of want to encourage us to look to try to find an opportunity to schedule a joint meeting with them. I think would be great to show our appreciation for the hard work that they do on behalf of our community and our area. So just kind of wanted to suggest to Jim or staff that if we could try to schedule a joint meeting with the school board here sometime soon, that'd be great.
That's a great suggestion, Councilman Cope. Matt or Jim, we were in pretty regular conversation with the school administration on what their plans are, correct?
Yes, we were kind of waiting for tonight's meeting to happen and have a little bit further conversation in detail after they've made their decision.
Okay, because we've got.
Yes, there was some transportation. There was some transportation-related issues that Matt's been doing a good job. He's actually met with the school board a couple weeks ago to talk about how our construction is going to impact the opening this fall. But then also, once they make their decision, we need to continue our conversation of how we work within the construction and just in general with how the school may be operating differently, both with students coming to the buildings as well as with transportation, the bus system.
We want to give some special attention to that at our next city council meeting, just an update on what those conversations are and what we're doing to assist them in whatever plan they move forward with. So, Councilman Soroka.
Yes, just two comments. One for Dave Volverding in Community Development. I have been asked to pass along thanks for addressing our residents' concerns about semi-traffic. So they're grateful for your response there. And then second for Matt Greiner and the Public Works Department, thanks for answering a litany of questions about traffic light timing along the Marl Hay Road corridor. So kudos to both teams there.
I think that's everyone. We all got an email from Lillian today. Lillian, what's Lillian? Lillian Hill, who is passionate about climate change and the issues involved there. I did respond to her and asked her to provide a little more information about what UNI is doing, working with communities to identify greenhouse emission study issues. You know, obviously we want to encourage her to continue to, you know, be interested and active and an advocate for what she believes in. So I don't have any suggestions this evening on how to do the follow-up with her, but obviously we need to do that. She's obviously an energetic young lady, and we want to keep her energized. So. With that, anything else for the good of the order? If not, then we are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.